The most horrific moment of my life wasn't a stranger's act, but a betrayal so deep, so calculated, it shattered my world. My own mother and sister took my sleeping 7-year-old daughter, blindfolded her, put her in a bag and abandoned her on a dark, desolate highway all to steal her birthday party. My name is Rebecca, and this is the story of how my own family, the people I should have been able to trust implicitly, tried to destroy my daughter's 7th birthday, and how I made them pay for every single second of her suffering. I vowed to leave them utterly ruined, just as they tried to ruin my little girl. This nightmare began 4 weeks before Mia's 7th birthday. My daughter, a sweet, thoughtful soul, had been planning this party with a devotion only a child could truly understand. Every single afternoon after school, she'd sit at our kitchen table, her small notebook open, carefully inscribing her ideas in wobbly, enthusiastic handwriting. She envisioned a garden party at my parents' house, their backyard a sprawling wonderland with ancient apple trees, and a koi pond she absolutely adored. "Mommy, can we have a butterfly cake?" she'd ask, holding up pictures she'd painstakingly printed from the internet. "And musical chairs under the big tree?" My heart would swell with a protective love for this gentle girl. Mia didn't crave flashy entertainment or expensive venues. She wanted something simple, beautiful, and surrounded by the family she cherished. My father, bless his heart, had agreed immediately. "Of course, sweetheart," he'd said, ruffling her hair. "You can have whatever you want in our backyard." My mother had smiled too, but now looking back, that smile feels like a gaping hollow chasm. My sister Rachel was also there with her daughter Jenny, who had just turned 8 a couple of weeks earlier. Rachel, glued to her phone, barely even acknowledged Mia's excited plans. Yet, Mia poured her entire heart into those 4 weeks. She crafted handmade invitations, each one sparkling with glitter. She meticulously practiced games and even helped me with test batches of cupcakes, determined to get the recipe just right. 15 kids had RSVP'd, including her best friend, Emma, and several classmates. The night before the party, we all gathered at my parents' house for a sleepover. 6 of Mia's closest friends arrived with their sleeping bags, and Jenny was there too, with Rachel staying the night. The air crackled with their excitement. They chased each other around the backyard, their laughter a joyful symphony echoing through the twilight. I remember tucking Mia into her sleeping bag in the guest room around 9:30 p.m. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes alight with uncontainable happiness. "Tomorrow's finally here, Mommy," she whispered, her small face beaming. "Almost, baby," I replied, kissing her forehead. "Get some sleep, you'll need all your energy." She threw her arms around my neck, squeezing me tight. "I love you so much," she said. "I love you more than all the stars in the sky," I told her, our usual cherished exchange. I checked on the other girls, ensuring they were all settled before retreating to my old childhood bedroom. Rachel and Jenny were supposedly in the den, my parents on the first floor. The house felt peaceful, filled with the soft breathing of sleeping children, and the beautiful promise of tomorrow's celebration. I fell into an exhausted, yet contented sleep. But then, something jolted me awake around 2 a.m. I'll never know for sure what it was. A mother's instinct? The soft click of a closing door? I lay there in the oppressive darkness, straining to hear, but everything was silent. Eventually, I drifted back to sleep, foolishly dismissing it as pre-party nerves. Oh, how I wish I hadn't. My alarm blared at 7 a.m. I stretched, a happy smile on my face, already envisioning Mia's joy. Today was her day. I quickly dressed and headed downstairs, planning to get a head start on the backyard setup before the kids woke. But the moment I stepped through the back door, into the crisp morning sunlight, my stomach plummeted. The backyard was already decorated. Streamers adorned the trees, tables were set with colorful cloths, balloons danced in clusters. But something was horrifyingly wrong. The banner stretched across the patio. It read in huge glittering letters, "Happy birthday, Jenny." My mind went utterly blank. I stood there, paralyzed, staring at my niece's name where my daughter should have been. This had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding, perhaps part of an even bigger surprise. My heart hammered against my ribs as I walked further into the yard. The party favors on the tables, the early delivered cake with its pink frosting. All proclaimed "Happy 8th birthday, Jenny." This wasn't Mia's party. It was Jenny's. Pure, unadulterated panic seized my chest. I spun around, bolting back inside, taking the stairs 2 at a time. I burst into the guest room where Mia had been sleeping. The other sleeping bags were there, rumpled, but Mia's was empty. The other girls were just beginning to stir, rubbing the sleep from their eyes. "Emma," I choked out, kneeling beside Mia's best friend, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Where's Mia? Did you see her this morning?" Emma shook her head sleepily. "No, Miss Rebecca. She was here when we fell asleep." "Empty. The bathroom. Empty. My own bedroom. Nothing." I tore through the entire upstairs, screaming Mia's name, my voice growing more frantic, more desperate with each empty room. I thundered downstairs to find my mother in the kitchen, calmly brewing coffee, Rachel beside her, casually buttering toast. "Where is Mia?" I demanded, my voice raw with terror. My mother barely even glanced up. She just snorted a dismissive, ugly sound that made my blood run cold. She must be around here somewhere. What do you mean, around here somewhere? I shrieked. Her sleeping bag is empty. Where is my daughter? Rachel turned to face me and I saw it, a flicker of triumph, of cold satisfaction in her eyes. Well, she drawled, we can't find your daughter, so I took the opportunity to celebrate my daughter's birthday instead. The world tilted. The air left my lungs. What did you just say? I whispered, my voice barely audible. You heard me, Rachel snapped, a smirk playing on her lips. Jenny's birthday party is today. The guests will be arriving at noon. This is Mia's party. I screamed, lunging forward. She's been planning this for a month. Where is my daughter? My mother set her coffee mug down with a sharp, deliberate click. Rachel's right. Since your daughter isn't here, we might as well use all these decorations and preparations for Jenny's birthday. It would be a waste otherwise. I honestly couldn't breathe. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be real. Tell me where Mia is right now, or I'm calling the police. My mother's voice was icy. Don't be so dramatic, Rebecca. I'm sure she's fine. She probably wandered off somewhere. She's 7 years old. I retorted, tears streaming down my face. She wouldn't just wander off in the middle of the night. My hands trembling so violently I almost dropped my phone. I pulled it out. I'm calling 911. Rachel rolled her eyes, a gesture of pure contempt. You're overreacting. She's probably hiding because she wants attention. I ignored her, deaf to her cruelty, and dialed. When the operator answered, I could barely force the words out. My daughter is missing. She's 7. She was sleeping at my parents' house and now she's gone. I need help. I gave her our address, Mia's description, what she'd been wearing. Within minutes, the first 2 police cars pulled up to the house, their sirens piercing the morning silence. Officers Martinez and Chan took my frantic explanation, their faces grim. They immediately began a systematic search of the house and property. More units were dispatched to comb the neighborhood. An Amber Alert was issued. Mia's innocent face broadcast to every phone within a 50-mile radius. The other sleepover children were questioned gently, but they'd all been fast asleep, hadn't seen or heard a thing. After an agonizing hour, Officer Martinez pulled me aside. Mrs. Foster, we need to ask you some difficult questions. Is there any history of family conflict? Anyone who might want to harm your daughter? I looked towards the kitchen. My mother and Rachel were being questioned by Officer Chan. Their body language all wrong. Nervous, yes, but not worried. Defensive, not concerned. My sister and mother, I said slowly, the sickening realization forming even as the words left my lips. They changed the party decorations. They made it Jenny's party instead of Mia's. And they're acting like this is normal. Martinez's expression hardened. He exchanged a low-voiced conversation with Chan. I saw Chen's eyes widen slightly as she looked back at my mother and sister. The questioning grew sharper. When did you last see Mia? Did you hear anything unusual? Why did you change the party decorations? My mother's carefully constructed story began to crack. We just thought since she wasn't here, it seemed wasteful. When exactly did you realize she wasn't here? Officer Chen pressed. This morning, my mother mumbled, her eyes darting away. Around 7, maybe earlier. So you knew she was missing before her mother discovered it, but you didn't alert anyone? Chen's voice was laced with disbelief. You just started setting up a party for a different child? Rachel suddenly stood up. I want a lawyer. Those 4 words, flat and cold, changed everything. The officers exchanged glances. Within minutes, my mother and sister were being escorted to police vehicles, requested to come to the station for formal questioning. We didn't do anything. Rachel shrieked, struggling against Officer Martinez's gentle but firm grip. You can't prove anything. Then you won't mind answering some questions at the station, Martinez said calmly. My father arrived home from his early morning golf game to utter chaos. Police cars choked the driveway, officers swarmed his property, and his wife and daughter were being led away in handcuffs. His face went utterly ashen as I explained what had happened. Where's Mia? He choked out, gripping my shoulders. Rebecca, where's my granddaughter? I don't know, Dad. But I think Mom and Rachel do. His expression crumbled. No, they wouldn't. They couldn't. But even as he uttered the words, doubt, old and weary, crept into his eyes. He'd lived with these women his whole life. He knew what they were capable of. 3 hours passed. 3 hours of pure, unadulterated hell. Search parties fanned out. Police checked every security camera. I called every parent of every child invited to the party. Nothing. No Mia. By the way, if you're still with me through this nightmare, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. More stories of unthinkable betrayals and fierce justice are coming. Then Officer Chen's phone rang. She stepped away, her face a mask, and I watched her expression shift, transforming from grim to something else urgent. She quickly spoke to Martinez, their words whispered, barely audible. Then Martinez approached me. "Mrs. Foster, we found your daughter. She's alive, but she's been injured. An ambulance is bringing her to County General Hospital right now." Relief so profound it was almost painful washed over me, quickly followed by a fresh wave of terror. "What happened? Is she okay?" "She was found on the side of Highway 47, about 18 miles from here. A truck driver saw her walking along the shoulder and stopped. She has some cuts and bruises, possibly exposure-related injuries. Paramedics are with her. I need to see her. Now. I need to get to the hospital." "I'll drive you," Martinez said. "On the way, I need to tell you what your daughter told the paramedics." We sped towards the hospital, lights flashing, the siren a mournful wail. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, my mind a whirlwind of fear and fragile hope. "Your daughter told the paramedics that your mother and sister woke her up around 2 in the morning, Martinez said, his voice tight with controlled rage. "They told her they had a special surprise for her birthday. They took her outside to your mother's car. According to Mia, they seemed excited, and she, innocent and trusting, went along." Tears streamed down my face, hot and relentless. "They drove for a while. Then they told her to close her eyes for the surprise. They blindfolded her. And then, according to her statement, they put her into what she described as a bag. Likely a large garbage bag or something similar. She said she got scared, asked what was happening, but they told her it was part of the surprise." I felt physically ill, a cold knot forming in my gut. Oh God. They drove for another 30 minutes or so. Then the car stopped. They pulled her out, still in the bag and blindfolded, and left her on the side of the road. She heard the car drive away. Mia, my precious baby, had somehow managed to get out of the bag, remove the blindfold, but she had no idea where she was. It was pitch black. She was utterly terrified. She tried to walk, hoping to find help, but there were no houses, just endless darkness. She walked for hours until dawn finally broke, allowing her to see. According to the truck driver, she'd walked approximately 12 miles from where we believe they left her. That's when he found her. My chest felt like it was caving in, crushing me. My own mother. My own sister. They had done this. To my baby girl. They had snatched her from her bed in the dead of night, terrorized her, abandoned her on a deserted highway, all so they could throw a party for Jenny instead. We arrived at County General, and I sprinted inside, the image of my daughter's terrified face burning in my mind. A kind nurse directed me to the emergency room. Behind a thin curtain, I finally found my little girl. Mia's face, bruised and sunburned, lit up when she saw me, but then it crumpled into heart-wrenching sobs. "Mommy!" I gathered her into my arms, weeping, holding her so tight I thought I'd never let go. Her arms and legs were covered in scratches from walking through brush along the highway. Her small feet were blistered and bleeding, having only worn thin socks. She was severely dehydrated, her lips cracked, but she was alive. "I'm so sorry, baby," I choked out, tears blurring my vision. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there to protect you. I was so scared, Mommy." She sobbed into my shoulder. "Grandma and Aunt Rachel said it was a surprise, but then they put me in a bag and left me in the dark. I didn't know how to get home. I just kept walking and walking." The doctor came in, his expression grave. Physically, Mia would recover from the cuts, blisters, and dehydration. But the emotional wounds? He highly recommended a child psychologist. What she experienced, abandonment by trusted family members, the primal fear of darkness, the profound breach of trust, could have lasting psychological effects. She would need immense support. I nodded numbly, stroking Mia's hair as she finally drifted into a medicated sleep, utterly exhausted. An hour later, Officer Chun returned. "Mrs. Foster, we have some updates. Your mother and sister have been arrested and charged with kidnapping, child endangerment, and abandonment. The district attorney is considering additional charges. Based on your daughter's statement and security footage we obtained from a gas station on Highway 47, showing your mother's car, we have strong evidence." "Good," I stated flatly, my voice devoid of emotion. "I want them prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law." "There's more," Chun continued. "During interrogation, your sister, Rachel, broke down and admitted everything. She said she was jealous that Mia was getting a big party at your parents' house. Jenny's birthday had passed 2 weeks earlier, and apparently, your parents told Rachel they couldn't afford to throw Jenny a party this year. Rachel convinced your mother that Mia didn't deserve such a big celebration. They planned the whole thing together. Their intention was to dump Mia somewhere she couldn't get back from until after the party was over. Then they'd find her and claim she'd run away or gotten lost." The sheer, calculated coldness of it stole my breath. This wasn't a moment of madness. This was premeditated terror inflicted on a 7-year-old child. "My child. Your mother," Chen added, "is trying to claim it was all Rachel's idea, that she just went along with it. But the security footage shows your mother driving, and she was the one who physically put Mia out of the car." "What happens now?" I asked, my voice trembling with a fury so deep it chilled me to the bone. "They'll be arraigned. Given the severity of the charges and the evidence, bail will likely be high. The DA wants to make an example of this case. Child endangerment like this. It could have ended so much worse. I knew exactly what she meant. Mia could have been hit by a car. She could have been taken by someone with far worse intentions. She could have died of exposure if she'd been out there much longer. The highway she was found on wasn't heavily traveled at night. My father appeared in the hospital room doorway, looking 20 years older than he had that morning. His face etched with devastation. How is she? Physically, she'll heal, I said, my voice cold hard. Emotionally? We'll see. Rebecca, I didn't know. You have to believe me. I had no idea they would do something like this. Where were you, Dad? I pressed, the anger finally bubbling over. Where were you when your wife and daughter were planning to torture your own granddaughter? He had no answer. His silence was deafening, damning. Over the next few days, the story exploded. Local news outlets ran with it. Grandmother and aunt arrested for abandoning child on highway for birthday party. Social media went into a frenzy. Their mugshots splashed across every screen. People from their church, their workplaces, their carefully curated social circles, all weighed in with shock and fervent condemnation. My mother, who had served 15 years on the school board, lost her position. Rachel was immediately fired from her job at the bank. Jenny was swiftly removed from Rachel's custody and placed solely with her ex-husband, David, who was utterly appalled by his ex-wife's actions. My father, in his own grief and shame, filed for divorce. But none of that was enough for me. Not nearly enough. I wanted them utterly destroyed, precisely the way they had tried to destroy Mia's birthday, her innocence, her very sense of safety in the world. I hired the best family attorney in the state, a woman known for her tenacity. We filed a civil lawsuit against both my mother and Rachel for emotional distress, medical expenses, and punitive damages. The amount I sued for was so substantial, so astronomical, that it would ensure the complete financial ruin of them both. Then I began my own personal campaign. I called everyone. Every single person in their social circle, every family friend, every distant relative. I told them in excruciating detail exactly what had happened. I forwarded them the news articles, the police reports, every piece of damning evidence. I made absolutely sure everyone knew that these women, my own mother and sister, had put a 7-year-old child in a garbage bag and dumped her on a dark highway, simply so they could throw a party for someone else. My mother's best friend of 30 years called me in tears. I can't believe Carol would do this, she sobbed. I'm testifying against her if it goes to trial. Several of Rachel's friends contacted me, not only to express their horror, but to offer to testify about Rachel's long history of jealousy and competitive behavior towards me and Mia. The evidence against them was overwhelming. Security footage showed my mother's car leaving the house at 2:14 a.m., with Mia clearly visible in the back seat. It showed the same car at a gas station 50 minutes later, Rachel pumping gas. It showed the car returning to my parents' house at 4:02 a.m. Mia was found at 7:23 a.m., 18 miles from the house, having walked approximately 12 miles from where she'd been abandoned. The arraignment was brutal. The judge set bail at $250,000 each, an amount neither could possibly afford. They remained in jail. Their lawyers desperately tried to negotiate plea deals, but the DA, horrified by the facts, flat out refused. This case was too egregious, too calculated, too cruel. It was going to trial. In the weeks that followed, Mia struggled immensely. Nightmares plagued her nights. She was terrified of the dark, refusing to sleep alone. Her therapist, Dr. Sarah Winters, worked with her 3 times a week, a slow, painful journey towards healing. But one question Mia asked broke my heart into a million pieces. Mommy, why did Grandma and Aunt Rachel hate me? They don't hate you, baby, I'd say, the words feeling like a bitter lie in my mouth. They made a terrible, terrible choice. But that's about them, not about you. You are so loved. But it was my birthday, she'd whisper, her small voice full of unshed tears. I planned everything. I just wanted a party with my friends. I would hold her, letting her cry, wishing with every fiber of my being I could go back in time and shield her from this unfathomable betrayal. During those 3 months leading up to the trial, a horrifying truth emerged. I discovered things about my family that I'd been utterly blind to my entire life. As I painstakingly went through old photo albums and home videos, preparing evidence for the civil case, chilling patterns surfaced. I saw a video from Mia's 5th birthday party at a restaurant. In the background there was Rachel, her face contorted with barely concealed resentment every time someone complimented Mia. My mother stood beside her, whispering something that made Rachel nod vigorously. Mia's first day of kindergarten photo showed her beaming, her new backpack shining. I remembered that day differently now. Rachel had shown up unexpectedly and spent the entire morning talking about how Jenny had already been reading chapter books at that age, how Jenny had been invited to the gifted program, how Jenny was so advanced for her age. I found a recording from Mia's dance recital when she was 6. She'd been so incredibly proud of her solo. In the audience recording during Mia's performance, I could clearly hear my mother's voice. Well, it's not as polished as Jenny's recital last month. At the time, I'd been too focused on Mia's radiant joy to notice. But now, listening back, the casual, insidious cruelty was unmistakable. I called my father one evening, needing answers, needing to understand. He was already in Arizona, having fled the chaos and overwhelming shame that had consumed our family. "Dad, how long?" I asked, my voice raw. "How long were they like this?" He was quiet for so long I thought the call had dropped. Then he sighed, a sound heavy with decades of weariness. "Your whole life, Rebecca. Your mother always compared you and Rachel. Everything was a competition. Rachel got good grades, but you got better ones. You were homecoming queen. She was only on the court. You married Michael and she thought he was wonderful, until he chose you. It ate at her. And your mother, she fed into it, played you two against each other. Why didn't you stop it?" I whispered, a fresh wave of grief washing over me. "I tried, sweetheart. Lord knows I tried. But your mother, she had a way of making you feel like you were the crazy one for seeing problems. She'd say it was healthy sibling rivalry, that I was being too sensitive. After 40 years of marriage, I stopped fighting. They did this to a child, Dad," I cried. "To your granddaughter." His voice broke. "I know. I'll never forgive myself for not seeing how far their jealousy could go. I should have protected you both." I painstakingly gathered more evidence of this systematic favoritism and cruelty. I found text messages Rachel had sent to friends over the years, complaining about how I thought I was so much better than her. How Mia got everything while Ginny got nothing. How her mother secretly agreed but wouldn't say it publicly. Those messages became crucial prosecution evidence, clearly showing premeditation and motive. And then came another horrifying revelation. This wasn't the first time they discussed doing something to Mia. A friend of Rachel's, utterly horrified by the news, came forward with screenshots of a conversation from 6 months earlier. Rachel had written, "I swear if Rebecca throws another party for that brat, I'm going to lose it. Mom agrees she's too spoiled. Someone needs to teach her she's not special." The friend had dismissed it as mere venting. She never, ever imagined Rachel meant it literally. As the trial date loomed, my anxiety became a constant, gnawing presence. I had to prepare myself for seeing them in court, for hearing their pathetic attempts to justify what they had done. My therapist, Dr. Karen Morrison, helped me forge coping strategies. "You're allowed to feel angry, Rebecca," she told me. "You're allowed to hate what they did. But don't let the hatred consume you. You have a daughter who needs you present and strong." I practiced my victim impact statement hundreds of times, wanting the judge and jury to grasp not just the horror of that night, but the lifetime of insidious emotional manipulation that had led to it. The trial began 3 months later. I sat in that sterile courtroom every single day, Mia safely at home with a babysitter she trusted implicitly. The prosecution meticulously laid out the timeline, the irrefutable evidence, the chilling statements. Mia's testimony, recorded in a child-friendly setting with Dr. Winters present, was played for the jury. Watching my daughter on that screen, explaining in her small innocent voice how her own grandmother and aunt had put her in a bag and left her on a dark road. I saw jury members openly crying. I saw the judge's jaw tighten with barely contained rage. Rachel stared fixedly at the table, refusing to meet the screen. My mother sat stone-faced, not a single tear, not the slightest hint of remorse. The defense tried every trick in the book. They argued that my mother and sister hadn't meant to truly abandon Mia, that they planned to retrieve her later. But the prosecution utterly annihilated that claim. They had driven 18 miles away on a dark, desolate highway, in the middle of the night. There was no plan. They had left her there to suffer while they set up Jenny's party. Rachel's lawyer attempted the moment of madness defense, claiming jealousy had driven her to temporary insanity. The prosecution swiftly countered with testimony from multiple witnesses about Rachel's long history of competitive behavior and blatant jealousy. This wasn't a moment of madness. This was a calculated pattern of behavior culminating in child abuse. My mother's lawyer tried to paint her as a victim of Rachel's manipulation, but the security footage proved otherwise. My mother was an active, willing participant. She had driven the car. She had physically put Mia out on that road. She had snorted and shown no concern when I'd frantically asked where Mia was the next morning. The trial lasted 2 excruciating weeks. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. The verdict? Guilty on all counts. Both of them. Sentencing came a month later. The judge, a formidable woman and a mother of 3 herself, delivered her words with scathing precision. "What you did to this child defies comprehension," she declared, her gaze fixed directly on my mother and Rachel. "You betrayed the most fundamental bond of family. You terrified an innocent child, abandoned her in a dangerous situation where she could have died. All because of petty jealousy and spite. The psychological damage you've inflicted may last a lifetime. This court finds your actions unconscionable and deserving of the maximum punishment allowed by law." My mother received 12 years in prison. Rachel, due to her admitted role as the instigator, received 15. Neither would be eligible for parole for at least 7 years. The civil lawsuit I filed was a resounding victory. I was awarded $3 million in damages, split between my mother and Rachel. It wouldn't bankrupt them overnight, but between crippling legal fees, their lost jobs and this monumental judgment, their financial futures were utterly decimated. My mother's house, the home she'd lived in for 40 years, had to be sold to pay her portion. Rachel's meager savings, her retirement accounts, even her car, all were seized. But these financial and legal consequences were just the beginning of what I had planned. I wanted them to understand the full crushing weight of what they'd stolen from Mia. And I was methodical. I contacted every single organization they were a part of. My mother's garden club, where she'd served as president for 8 years, received a formal letter detailing her conviction and the monstrous nature of her crime. They voted unanimously to revoke her membership and removed her name from the memorial garden she'd helped establish. Her book club of 23 years disbanded entirely. Half the members refused to meet if there was any chance she'd return after serving her sentence. Rachel had been heavily involved with the local women's business networking group. I made absolutely sure every member knew exactly why she'd been fired from the bank and what she'd done to my daughter. They released a public statement condemning her actions and distancing themselves from her entirely. The church they'd attended for decades held a special meeting. Several members stood up, voices trembling with betrayal, recounting how they had trusted these women with their own children at church events. The pastor, in a sermon that resonated deeply, spoke of wolves in sheep's clothing. Neither my mother nor Rachel were ever welcome there again. I even discovered Rachel had been volunteering at Jenny's school, helping in the library twice a week. I made sure the school board knew about her conviction. They promptly implemented new policies requiring background checks for all volunteers, citing her case specifically. Jenny's school became a place of shame for Rachel's entire family, another piece of tragic collateral damage from her mother's cruelty. My mother had been planning to run for city council that year. Her campaign, already underway with signs printed and a website launched, imploded spectacularly. Her opponent, a woman named Patricia Hernandez, ran devastating ads, highlighting my mother's conviction and asking voters if they truly wanted someone who could abandon a child in charge of city decisions. Patricia won in a landslide, and I made sure their neighbors knew everything. In my mother's affluent subdivision, I personally delivered copies of the news articles to every single house. Some neighbors confronted me, accusing me of being cruel to publicly shame her. I looked them straight in the eye and asked if they had grandchildren, if they could imagine doing what she did, if they would want to live next to someone capable of such cruelty without knowing about it. Most fell silent, their faces blanching. Rachel's apartment complex was smaller, easier to canvass. Within a week of distributing the information, she received an eviction notice. The landlord cited the overwhelming media attention and other tenants' complaints as reasons to terminate her lease. She had nowhere to go but a tiny rundown studio apartment in a rough part of town, 40 minutes from where Jenny lived with her father. I hired a private investigator to monitor them both before sentencing, wanting to know if they showed any real remorse, any actual understanding of the monstrous evil they had committed. The investigator's reports were damning. My mother had been recorded during a jail visit with one of her few remaining friends complaining, "I can't believe Rebecca is doing this to me after everything I did for her growing up. This is so typical of her. Always so dramatic." Rachel had written letters from jail to several people, and I obtained copies through legal channels. In one letter to a former coworker she wrote, "Yes, what we did was wrong, but Rebecca is destroying our entire lives over one mistake. Mia's fine now. This is excessive." The utter staggering lack of accountability, the self-pity, it was sickening. I submitted these recordings and letters to the judge as part of my victim impact evidence, showing their continued, chilling lack of remorse. The judge referenced them specifically during sentencing, noting that their refusal to accept responsibility demonstrated they remained a danger to children. When my mother's house finally sold to pay her portion of the civil judgment, the buyer was a real estate developer with plans to demolish it. I contacted him and offered to purchase the empty lot after demolition. He agreed. The lot where she'd raised her family, where she'd built her identity as a pillar of the community, became an empty patch of earth under my ownership. I'm currently working with the city to donate the land for a children's playground, with plans for a dedication to survivors of family violence. The process will take several years, but knowing that her former home will one day be a place celebrating children's joy and safety, that gives me a deep, profound satisfaction. 6 months after sentencing, Rachel's ex-husband, Jenny's father, David, called me. "Rebecca, I know you have every right to hate my entire family by association, but I need you to know something. Jenny asks about Mia constantly. She doesn't understand why they can't see each other anymore. She knows her mother did something terrible, but she's just a kid. She lost her mother and her grandmother in one day." His words stung because they were undeniably true. Jenny was an innocent bystander, caught in the terrifying crossfire of her mother's malice. "What do you want me to say, David? That it's okay? That we should let the girls have playdates?" "No," he said quickly. No, I would never ask that. I just wanted you to know that Ginny is in therapy too. She blames herself somehow, thinks if she hadn't been born, or if her birthday wasn't close to Mia's, none of this would have happened. Her therapist says she has survivor's guilt. I felt a pang of sympathy, a fleeting moment of sadness for an innocent child's pain, but I couldn't let it sway me. I'm sorry Ginny is hurting, David. I truly am. But I can't let Mia anywhere near anyone connected to what happened. Maybe when they're adults they can reconnect if they choose. But right now, my daughter's healing has to come first. I understand, David said quietly. I just thought you should know. And Rebecca, for what it's worth, I'm sorry. If I'd stayed married to Rachel, if I'd been around more, maybe I would have seen how sick she was getting with jealousy. Maybe I could have prevented this. This isn't your fault, David, I replied, my voice softening just a fraction. Rachel made her choices. My mother made hers. You couldn't have prevented their darkness. After we hung up, I told Mia that Ginny was okay living with her dad now. Mia nodded solemnly. Is Ginny sad? Probably, I admitted. This has been hard for everyone. I miss her sometimes, Mia said softly, a small, sad echo of a simpler time. We used to have fun together before. I know, sweetie. But sometimes people do things that break trust so badly it can't be fixed. Your Aunt Rachel and Grandma broke our trust in the worst way possible. Mia thought about that for a moment. Will I ever see them again? Not until you're much older and only if you decide you want to, I told her firmly. I'll never make you see them if you don't want to. Good, she said, her voice stronger. Because I don't think I ever want to. My father completed his divorce and moved to Arizona, seeking solace near his brother. Before he left, he set up a substantial trust fund for Mia. His desperate attempt to make amends for failing to protect her. We speak occasionally, but things will never be the same. Jenny went to live with her father permanently. Her 8th birthday came and went without fanfare. Part of me felt a quiet sadness for her, a child caught in the brutal crossfire of her mother's cruelty, but mostly, I felt immense relief that Mia wouldn't have to see her cousin again. A year after the trial, Mia's therapist confirmed she was making remarkable progress. The nightmares still came sometimes, but they were less frequent. She'd learned healthy coping mechanisms for her anxiety. Slowly, tentatively, she was learning to trust again. We celebrated her 8th birthday at a small venue she chose, just her closest friends. It was simple, beautiful, exactly what she wanted. When I sang happy birthday and she blew out her candles, I saw it, real genuine joy on her face. What did you wish for? I asked, my heart full. She smiled, that bright, pure smile. That we can be happy, Mommy. Just you and me. We will be, baby. I promised, my voice thick with emotion. I promise we will be. And I kept that promise. I sold the $3 million reward and put every single penny into a trust for Mia's future. Her education, her ongoing therapy, her life. I wanted her to know that something good, something secure had come from that nightmare. Blood money perhaps, but money that would give her opportunities and unwavering security. I also legally changed our last name. We were no longer Fosters. We became Mia and Rebecca Stone. A fresh start, a new identity irrevocably separate from the people who tried to destroy us. Sometimes I still think about my mother and Rachel sitting in their prison cells. I wonder if they ever truly understood the depth of what they did. I wonder if they feel even a sliver of remorse, or if they still justify their actions somehow. I wonder if they ever think about Mia, walking alone on that dark highway, terrified and abandoned. But mostly I don't think about them at all. They wanted to ruin Mia's birthday, to steal her joy and replace it with their own petty triumph. Instead they lost everything. Their freedom, their reputations, their family, their futures. They are forgotten by most people now. Just two bitter women who committed an unforgivable crime. Mia and I moved to a different state, a place where nobody knows our story. She's in 4th grade now, thriving in school, making new friends, slowly, steadily learning to trust again. She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up. She's brave, resilient, and stronger than any child should ever have to be. Just last week, she asked if we could throw a birthday party this year for her 10th birthday. My heart seized for a moment, a flash of fear that it would trigger bad memories. But she smiled at me, that beautiful, hopeful smile. Just a small one, Mom. Maybe at the park with Emma and a few other friends. Anything you want, sweetheart. I told her, my voice full of love. Anything you want. She hugged me tight. I love you, Mom. I love you more than anything in this world, I replied. We're planning that party now. She's excited, and there's no shadow of fear in her eyes. That's how I know we've won. They tried to break her, to steal her happiness, to replace her with someone they deemed more worthy. They failed. Mia's happy. She's safe. She's loved beyond measure. And them? They are exactly where they belong, paying for what they did for the rest of their lives. That's justice. That's revenge. That's what leaving someone in ruins really looks like. Not once did I waver in pursuing every single legal avenue available. Not once did I let sympathy or the hollow claim of family loyalty stop me from protecting my daughter, and ensuring her abusers faced the full, crushing weight of their consequences. Some people even now tell me I went too far, that I should have shown mercy, that they were family. But they stopped being family the moment they put my sleeping daughter in a bag and left her on a dark, desolate highway. Family protects. Family loves. Family doesn't destroy a child's innocence for something as petty and ugly as jealousy. I sleep well at night, knowing I did everything humanly possible to seek justice for Mia. And when she's old enough to fully understand what happened and what came after, she'll know that her mother fought for her with every fiber of her being. She'll know she was worth fighting for. That's all that matters in the end. Mia knows she's loved. She knows she's safe. And she knows I'll always protect her. The women who tried to hurt her learned the hard way. A mother's love is the most powerful force in the world, and crossing it comes with a price they'll pay for the rest of their lives. They wanted to leave my daughter in ruins. Instead, I left them there. They are nothing now. Absolutely nothing. Have you ever experienced a betrayal so profound that it changed your entire perspective on family? Or seen someone pay such a heavy price for their cruelty? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments below. I truly want to hear what you think.